The word autism is tiny and describes a huge spectrum of people, from those who need 24/7 care to those who can perfectly exist in the world but may struggle with making friends. And all of these people are called autistic. To start with, for me, that's a problem. There is a hidden community of people who no one really wants to admit or acknowledge are there. Beyond money, how do I cope with my child when they may be spreading feces all over the walls and I can't invite my friends home, when they're biting themselves and others and I don't know what to do? That's where our work can be a drop in the ocean. It's not everything. Every human being on the planet has a heart and it's pumping blood around the body and it's making a boom boom sound. It's scientifically true and biologically true. So that heartbeat is common to us all. And our interior rhythms are going at different paces depending on anxiety. And that's where we can use theatre in its almost dance form, in its embodied form, to speak to the inner rhythm of somebody who may be anxious.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the India Autism Center podcast. This is your space where we discuss things about inclusive design, awareness, and innovation in the field of disability. I'm your host, Sakhi Singhi, and I am today going to unpack this really fascinating question, which is how can drama, rhythm, and sensory-based play unlock communication, expression, and confidence for autistic children and adults? And to help us delve further into this question is none other than Kelly Hunter, MBE. She's a theatre actor, director, and founder of Flute Theatre. She's been running this for about 25 years, and she's been innovating at the intersection of drama, rhythm, and neurodiversity. I'm really honored to have Kelly here on this podcast, and we welcome her to the India Autism Center. Okay, so Kelly, how are you finding your time here in Kolkata?
Yes, quite life-changing, actually. To have the opportunity to do the work that I've made where the need is really, really high is exactly what I always want to be able to do, and meet incredible people who work with autistic children here in Calcutta. Some have been doing it for 30 years and they really know what they're doing, and they have nothing. They have no facilities, barely. They have what we in London wouldn't dream of even walking into.
Yeah.
So the culture shock, I've been to India before, but the culture shock is always there. The facilities are at the lowest, but the heart and the soul and the quality of the care from those I've met who work in these centres, every single one of them has been overwhelming, and it's allowed us to offer our way of using theatre. So it's been an absolute privilege. And it was Ninad Samadar of Urban Theatre Project who got us here, and then some support from yourselves coming in at the end. So it's been really wonderful, and I'm
so glad, because Calcutta is kind of like the city of theatre, of music and movement. So it's really fitting to have the Flute Theatre here and do such purposeful work. Kelly, your journey, when I watched the Flute Theatre kind of in action, it was very evident that your journey didn't begin with autism. It began in theatre itself. You are a very successful mainstream theatre actor. I want to know what led you to this to pivot into autism.
Good question. Yes, I spent a lot of my life from about the age of 17 for 2 decades as you say, a mainstream actor. But I didn't have a very natural path into acting. I had a very eccentric upbringing in a theatre background. And I went into theatre without ever training. I left school when I was 15 with very few qualifications. I did needlework instead of maths from the age of 12. Shows you the kind of school I went to. And but I could sing and dance and act. So I was in West End musicals when I was 17 in the late 1970s. So I was always in some way in theatre when most people of my age hadn't even finished their education. So I had, in a way, a head start, but also I could see through am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
The bullshit that goes along hand in hand with theatre and with people wanting to show how great they are without actually anything behind it. So I've always been the kind of person who wants to
Call it out.
make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Somehow. I just have that instinct in me. So even though I was doing all these amazing shows, I didn't live the normal life of people who were superficially very successful. So it was a very natural thing for me, actually, as I got older, to want to do something with my skills. It didn't feel like I had to change my life in some way. It felt more like, how do I make my life fit my own personality?
Was there a moment on stage that made you realize that basically connection could exist beyond words, beyond, connection is sort of greater than performance?
Yeah. No, not on stage, but in a prison. There was a light bulb moment. So in long time ago, in the 1990s, I was on tour with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and the education department also asked us if any of us wanted to go into local prisons in the country and do Shakespeare workshops. And I signed up for it. You literally put your name on a board. I had no phones. And I went on a bus to a very, very poor prison in the middle of a place called Darlington, Darlington Men's Prison. And I was just me and another guy. And they just put us in a room with 30 prisoners. And I had been preparing because I really wanted to do it well. I'd printed out scripts of Measure for Measure, which was the play I was in then, which is Shakespeare's play about justice and injustice. It was a perfect play to take into a prison. Prepared a really amazing speech for us to work on, and I handed out the scripts, and all of them looked at me and they said, "We can't read." Oh, we can't read. So I said, no, I felt so stupid, really, like, of course you can't fucking read. My friend. So I took the scripts back and I created just there and then a workshop where I knew the words of the play backwards. So I fed one line at a time, be absolute for death. I fed these words to these people. I used prompting. I said, okay, this is what you say. This is how you say it. I wonder what your body shape would be in. And they were like, oh, I think I'd be like this or like this. And they started to move their bodies as I taught them the words. And it was the most enjoyable 3 hours I had for years. Even though I'd been playing these amazing parts and winning awards on stage, this was where I felt really alive. And then the bell rang and they were like, goodbye. And the guys just left. And I was kind of, what the hell? But I left the prison. I never went back there because we were on tour. But it stayed in my head. So yeah, that was something that taught me that there was more. But it took me a long route to find it.
You've worked with autistic individuals across cultures, abilities, and ages.
Yeah.
Where do you think is a true foundation for genuine connection with this population?
Well, the word autism is tiny and describes a huge spectrum of people.
Yes.
From those who need 24/7 care to those who can perfectly exist in the world but may struggle with making friends.
Yes.
And all of these people are called autistic.
Yes.
So to start with, for me, that's a problem because I don't see a connection between the two very different ends of the spectrum. The person who can drive a car and have children but calls themselves self-autistic compared or connected to the person who needs 24/7
Can I just say
care.
Thank you so much for pointing that. I mean, for just saying that. Yeah, there are very few people that do acknowledge that difference.
Yeah, for me, it just has to be acknowledged because it's just the truth. It's not an opinion. It's just the plain truth. Those two things have nothing in common. And what's interesting about coming to India, the people that we've been playing with and performing with are the people who need 24/7 care. And I'm so happy and grateful that those were the people we got to play with because that's where this work sits. Yeah. That's who the work is for. I'm not denying that people who are also have a diagnosis of autism but can look after themselves to some degree need some sort of help. But there is help available. There is a hidden community of people who no one really wants to admit or acknowledge are there, whose very existence makes their family's life almost impossible, beyond money. How do I cope with my child when they may be spreading feces all over the walls and I can't invite my friends home, when they're biting themselves and others and I don't know what to do? That's where our work can be a drop in the ocean. It's not everything. Money is very, very important in this. Actually funding people to have the time and the space to look after small groups of autistic people. Actually just putting large groups of people in a room together is counterproductive. So your question was about what the connection is.
Yes.
The connection really for me has been that everybody has an inner rhythm. That every human being on the planet has a heart and it's pumping blood around the body and it's making a boom boom sound. It's scientifically true and biologically true. So that heartbeat is common to us all. And our interior rhythms are going at different paces depending on anxiety. And that's where we can use theatre in its almost dance form, in its embodied form, to speak to the inner rhythm of somebody who may be anxious.
That actually answers the next question that I had, which is, what is it that's something that's universal, that transcends language, diagnosis, and culture? And I think you answered that already, which is the heartbeat.
Yeah, and just to further go into that the depth of understanding that everyone has a heartbeat, therefore, means we're all the same. And that people with autism are not another species.
Yeah.
And if we all start with the common ground of we are all human beings, and let's find what connects us all. So we have the one thing, the heartbeat. There's going to be others. There's going to be other things that connect us together, making eye contact. Actually, the human existence and the human experience of to know you or for you to know me, there will be eye contact. And how interesting that a lot of people on the spectrum, on that end that we're talking about, either just stare or don't make any eye contact or are so fearful of being seen.
Yeah.
And that is a common thread, because all of us also experience that. If you meet someone you might feel unbelievably shy, you either might fancy them or think they fancy you, or you just don't like them. It's not just a sexual thing. You could just have an aversion to that person. And so your eyes have it. Your eyes are the window to your soul, and Shakespeare understood that. Yeah.
Kelly, if you were to explain your work to someone for the very first time, how would you describe its core purpose?
It's a theatre practice.
Okay.
Theatre is in itself therapeutic. All theatre. Theatre includes music, dance, plays, literature. Theatre includes the community coming together. And that is a therapeutic experience. You will feel something. You might feel better, you might feel worse, but you'll feel something. So our theatre practice allows people who are never invited to go to the theatre, ever, even relaxed performances. Our theatre experience allows them to come and share their thoughts and feelings, and we meet them where they are rather than expecting them to come to us.
What I love about the practice is that it feels like play, but it's the connection. It just feels like there's like a deep connection in what's happening there. This is just something that I wanted to bring up, which is I want to highlight the word Shakespeare for a moment, because when I was explaining to people about Flute Theatre, and the minute they heard Shakespeare, they thought it was just way too profound for them, or it was just too, that they didn't have that bandwidth to understand what would happen. How do you disarm that fear of Shakespeare?
Well, Shakespeare's plays are written in the rhythm of a heartbeat.
Okay.
So his poetry is boom, 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 boom. And it changes and has different fluctuations in it. And as we've already discussed, the connection between all 7 billion human beings on the planet is a heartbeat. So he's onto something. He's connecting us with his rhythms. And there are 4 key words in Shakespeare running through all the plays: eyes, mind, reason, and love. Eyes, mind, reason, and love. He explored how and why our eyes love and our mind sees. And that's everybody. And you don't have to have a degree, and you don't have to understand anything to have a loving eye and a seeing mind. And that's at the heart of his plays.
I've always wanted to ask you, why is it called Flute Theatre?
So there's a character in one of his plays. The play is A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Okay.
And there's a character called Flute who is completely set in his ways. He's not doing anything. He is a bellows mender. He's one of the mechanicals. So for his job, he sits and he just mends the bellows. But he's been inside this company who are putting on a play. And so he gets told he has to play a woman. And he's like, I cannot do that because, number one, I've got a beard coming. Like, there's no way that I'm going to pull it off as a girl because I've got a beard coming. And he's got a really low, gruff voice. And then throughout the play, he rehearses and then he transforms himself and steals the entire show with his joy and his laughter and his silliness and his high-pitched voice and his transformation. So for me, he's the embodiment of transformation. And at the heart of Flute Theatre is the witnessing of transformation. People who seem not to be able to communicate at all, but actually then with a little encouragement and love and patience, something happens.
I thought it had something to do with the flute that you play.
Yeah. And, the story really is that I was rejected by a lot of people, including the Royal Shakespeare Company, for this work to continue. And I stubbornly made the decision to start my own theatre company. And I sat in a cafe and went, I'll call it Flute Theatre because of transformation. But I had genuinely no expectation that 11 years later it would be something that was still going and that I would be travelling around the world and even being on a podcast. So I'm stuck with it. It's a great
It's so
a great
honoured
title.
to have you here, honestly, Kelly.
It's a great title, but it needs a bit of explaining. And it's nothing to do with flutes.
If Flute Theatre had a sound, what sound would it be?
Laughter.
Would it be like
laughter?
Like a laughter.
It would be it would be the belly laugh of the little boy who sat, I think you were there, and watched our Trinculo go.
Oh, yes.
And really couldn't stop laughing.
Yes.
At its most, it's laughter.
Yes.
But can I say something? I think it would also be tears. I think it's the sound of emotion. So it lives in the release of emotion. That's what it would sound like. Laughter or tears.
Your work has a lot of rhythm. It has a lot of sensory integration.
Yeah, okay.
How does that really... I personally think that play does not need to bring anything out of it. Like, play needs to be play. There doesn't have to be an outcome towards play.
I have the answer by now.
Yeah.
I know what the answer is. So you're asking how is the rhythm helpful and how is it used in the room? And this is actually very, very important. So autistic people will not be watching or looking at the activities. They might be, but they will likely look away. However, they will hear us. Unless they're stone deaf, they will listen. And if they're not actively listening, they will hear something. So keeping boom, 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 the hello, hello, keeping some kind of rhythm and the ever-changing little tunes that we have that link the games give some kind of web of sound that is like a security blanket. So that changing rhythm is the thing that is at the heart of this work. And we've really discovered that, because if you let that go and you say, okay, let's play the next game, and you let a kind of silence descend, some of the participants will just leave the room.
Yeah.
And so the actors get so frustrated with me because the thing they hear me going is, keep singing while I tell you what's happening next. Keep something going, because something needs to be going
Right.
in our room that is not instruction, but is a sound-based web of love and changing patterns, because our participants will be hearing us.
Kelly, you had mentioned to me, this was offline, was that when you just started this work, you were working with a population which was Down syndrome. They had, Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, and they told you not that door, right? Not that door. Why did you walk into that door? And what was the difference between working with people with autism? They are a difficult population to bring into, to instill that confidence into them is a tough job. I just want to know how the challenge has been over the years.
So to put it in context, when I very first started this work, after the experience in the prison, 10 years later, I volunteered my services at a special school in London, and they said, yes, you can come once a week. We had a tiny bit of funding, and they said, you come once a week, play with little groups of all sorts of people. And we have a lot of kids who've been in prison and have got behavioural problems. A lot of people with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. And he pointed to a door and said, but of course, don't go behind that door because that's where the autistic people are. And my ears pricked up and I thought that was strange. I didn't know why they would not be included. I'd not met anyone with autism before. So I said, I'd like to also include them. And they weren't too worried. It wasn't that these were not bad people. They were great people at that school. And they went, okay, well, we don't think you'll get anywhere with them, but you can try. To be honest, it was the easiest group. That's the truth. Something fell into place. Something fell into place for me. My own children at home were little. They were 4 and 6 years old. So I was playing with them, rolling around on the floor, doing funny games with them, going doing, seeing what made them laugh. Just as a natural, playful parent with my kids. It was the happiest time for me when my kids were little. Just loved playing with them. That was a blessing. And transferring that into playing with the group of 12 autistic people that I met, it felt natural, I guess. With hindsight, you could say I felt like I was where I wanted to be, or I needed to be, or I was where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
It never felt challenging. It just sat on the floor in a circle and made some heartbeats and played some games and saw what they responded to.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot I wanted to play with. I wanted to see what rhythms of heartbeats could create in circles of people. Because I'd been on stage in all these years using Shakespeare, and I knew the loving eye and the seeing mind. I knew all of that. And it was as if I stumbled upon the very people for whom those things are difficult, using their eyes to express their love and their reason. So it was like Shakespeare had gone, play with them,
Mm-hmm.
do something with them, because that really makes sense to me. So it was a blessing.
I keep calling it the show that I attended. Is that a right way?
100%,
Yeah, the show that I attended.
Yes.
Honestly, Kelly, it blew my mind. So before that, I had watched all of the documentaries of Flute Theatre online. I've read up everything that was there on your website also. And I thought I knew it all. Mm-hmm. I thought I knew it. I didn't probably have to experience it. I knew it was great. I was just amazed. I mean, what was amazing to me was how fluid it was, but yet it had like a sort of structure. So first it was, getting everyone into the same rhythm. Then it was watch where my hand is going. Let's establish this trust. Then it was, it was, like I mentioned, it was like play, but it felt like it had a lot of emotions that were stitched into it. Mm-hmm. Kelly, how did you curate this?
Yeah, it's thank you so much for seeing it and having the eyes and the heart to see it. It's a performance of a Shakespeare play. So everything that you saw, for me, I've taken the essence of what Shakespeare wrote that takes us on this amazing emotional journey of the master-slave relationship with the cramps, costume, which is very dynamic, which is in the play, Prospero and Caliban. You don't need the whole play to get to the essence of it.
Yeah.
And then another thing Shakespeare does is 1 minute you are experiencing one emotion, and then almost by like a film montage, the next minute it's something different.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't tell you how you got there. He just goes, now we're here, now we're there.
Mm-hmm.
So these switches, just with a ding, they do something to the emotion. That's a very clever thing of Shakespeare. So I use that to our advantage. So 1 minute everyone is experiencing the rage of the slave and the master, and then suddenly everyone's in love. And then suddenly everyone's getting too close and needs to be far away. And then suddenly we're in the world of clowns. And then suddenly we are accepting the monster as part of our own world and singing his name and everyone's name. So all of this is like the elements of Shakespeare, which can be refined into these basic dreamlike qualities. It's like we're in the unconscious, which Shakespeare is working at as well.
And a lot of this is covered in your book, right?
Yeah.
Hunter's Heartbeat.
It's all covered in my book.
And Hunter is, what is Hunter?
Well,
Hunter is your...
Hunter's my name. And
I thought that had a
that got stuck
significance
with me as
also.
well. No, that got stuck with me when I did a lot of projects in America.
I thought it was probably a Shakespeare character also.
No, in America they love to use the name, and so they called it Hunter Heartbeat Method before I'd even known what was happening. And again, I suppose it shows, I don't know, my step-by-step attitude towards it. I just thought, oh well, that will never stick either, so I just let it as well. I'm not embarrassed, but I'm slightly. If I'd called it something myself, I wouldn't have used my own name.
It just goes well. I think. It goes really well. It's like a nice rhythm to it.
But the book is called Shakespeare's Heartbeat.
Yeah. So Shakespeare's Heartbeat, if someone was to pick up that book, and what do they expect to get out of it?
I guess the best person that book is for is someone who was at the beginning of my journey, either in the prison or on that first day in the special school, and wanting some clues or ideas about how to make games with a group of autistic people and wanting to do it but not knowing how. So it would take you quickly. You wouldn't spend 25 years working it out. You'd actually quickly, in a reading of it, have some clues. It shows very methodically, describes very methodically how to play the games that you saw and how to make the theatre practice that you saw, and also goes a little bit deeper into the experience of the autistic person. So their struggles with proprioception, spatial awareness, the vestibular system, making eye contact, speech and language, being known and accepted, and those targets are always somewhere inside what you saw.
How did you decide which games and activities went inside the book?
Well, they're all there.
All of them?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much. So many more than you saw. So there's much more in the book than you could do in one session. But that seems very important. I mean, if you're going to buy a book, you want it to give you all the answers as much as possible. But also, I say a lot in the book, this is a starting point for you, the reader, to do your own thing. And one very gratifying thing is around the world, people have written to me and saying that they've bought my book, read it, and they've tried it and it works, and now they've developed it in their own ways as well.
I think we need to translate that book now.
Yes, that would be good.
Like Bengali and Hindi needs to happen. Is there, I mean, just to give the listeners a sort of insight into this, is there any activity that looks really simple and that could probably be all for the entire book, really looks simple on the page, but is really powerful? Like, can you describe one that they could get in the book?
I think keeping the rhythm of a heartbeat, going hello, hello, hello to someone who is dysregulated and distressed. Trying that.
So many of our listeners are therapists, educators, and caregivers. You've already shared one, which is hello. Can you share probably another one that could help them with their students who have an attention issue, like an attention or a connection issue, which would...
I think just going to make eye contact.
What is that though?
It's just, well, let's follow a cartoon. Like when a cartoon, like when Donald Duck sees something, he goes, his eyes go out on stalks.
Yeah. So, yeah. Like with springs.
Yeah, with springs. Exactly. It's our eyes going out on springs. Making something that is difficult into something that is playful. That's what doyoyoing is. It's silly, playful, cartoon-like way of not making fun of somebody, but actually allowing someone to have a little look, and then look away. So if they're really struggling with eye contact, if they play this silly game, maybe they can play the game rather than just be told, you've got a problem with your eye contact, so you need to look. And I've seen that, and many parents have told us that our games have the effect that parents would like more speech therapy or drama therapy to have. And a lot of times I think speech therapy and drama therapy make the person feel like they've got a problem.
Okay.
and they need to do something differently.
To fix it, yes.
And then they're better. We don't do any of that. No one's got a problem. We are just who we are. And we're going to share how it is to be a human being through playing games. We have the target of making a bit of eye contact. So the crucial thing as well, which you saw, is we do it anyway. So a therapist might ask someone if they can do something. We never do that. We just go doing, and human beings often copy. More often than not, they will copy something. So in copying someone who's being playful, the result is something has moved and transformed. The person hasn't changed and become anyone different, but they've broken through a little communication barrier for themselves and empowered themselves to do it. And sometimes that might happen straight away, and sometimes it happens after years. But we always are doing it. And we're never kind of clock watching and going, oh, well, he hasn't done it yet, so we'll give up, or he wasn't very good, was he?
Yeah.
Also, there's literally no evaluation at the end. There's no sheet to mark. Like, from 1 to 10, did he do it 1? Did he do it 10? It's just who the person is. And the effect is only important at the time that it happens. And then hopefully it would happen again. And then you're respecting the human being who's in the room with you. You're not treating them like a patient or a pupil or something, as if there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Or worse, a sort of animal, which we've seen over the world, like as if there's something really wrong and we're going to test you and research you to see what can make you better. That's about as far away from this work as it is possible to be.
Kelly, the last week you've been doing shows with different special schools around Calcutta. What has that experience been for you? Has it been any different from what it is back in the UK?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The actors that we were working with from the Anuchintan, have I got that right?
Anuchintan?
Yes. Center, have been absolutely fantastic. They only had 4 days to learn how to do this.
Wow.
So they were learning as we were doing it. So I can't praise them too highly. They were just wonderful. And for some of them, it felt like they'd been doing it all their lives, because actually this thing that we're doing when we're playing with actors is very natural, and the bit of it you can't teach at all. So in that way, it felt the same. The levels of poverty here are, of course, much more extreme than they are in the West. It reminded me of being in Lima, Peru, where I've worked. Same thing. Global South is a different thing, very much about environment.
Yeah.
Walking into a room full of mosquitoes or cockroaches in Peru, or mosquitoes here, and just going, well, that's what we have here. If you're from the West, you don't expect that, but I know to expect it. The thing is, the autistic people respond to the people around them. So for us as a company, we're looking at the environment, and it is better if you're in a nice space. But the autistic kids respond to the people who are working with them.
Yes.
And we met the most amazing people.
Kelly, what is your vision for the Hunter Heartbeat method? Is there something that you hope this will do?
Yes. I've been doing it for a long time, quarter of a century altogether. And then Flute Theatre is 11 years old as a theatre company. I want to embed community projects where the need is greatest, which is why we're here. We don't need to do it it would be impossible and stupid to try to do it everywhere with everyone straight away, because it works best when a relatively small group of autistic people and their families and their carers do this regularly. So here in Calcutta, we want the Urban Theatre Project to be the home for Flute Theatre.
Yes.
And on a weekly basis to run these sessions and for them to be absolutely known as a thing that happens for free for families to come on a regular basis from the age of 3 to 73, and for the doors to be completely open for the next 5 to 10 years at least, and for that to be embedded here. And in that way, people can come and they can learn from it and they can train with it and they could take that back to where they are. Trying to spread it in any other way just doesn't work. You need to build the actual community. And amazingly, we have it here. We have it with Ninad and now the actors that we've just started this work with. So that would be my vision.
Yeah, I am so committed to help you realize this vision as well. I think this is really important. And this is something that I know India Autism Center would like to support and do. So Kelly, that was all that I had, all the questions that I had for today. Do you have any closing thoughts that you want to give to us?
No, I want to thank you, Saki, for
thank you.
Seeing it.
Yes, no, it was the very least. I think the real work needs to begin now. And I can't wait to collaborate with the Urban Theatre, with Ninad here, to make that happen. So thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing.
I hope I wasn't scared.
No, you weren't. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your warmth and your time here in Calcutta. It means so much to us. And to our listeners, if you found this conversation meaningful, please do like, share, and subscribe. I will also be linking Kelly's book in the description. We will be working with Kelly to make sure that this book is translated either in Hindi or in Bengali. And if you'd like to watch any of the other videos, consider watching any of the ones that are popping up on your screen. Thank you.